Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's well today. I am here today feeling very lucky because I have the legend that is the Irish Hotspur, Dave, in the house. Hello, Dave. How are you?
How are you, Kate? Thanks very much for having me. Delighted to be here. Not a legend, just a normal, passionate Spurs fan like you and everybody else out there.
Yeah, but you are a legend, Dave. You are a legend, Mr. Captain Wheatos himself.
Another bowl of Wheatos in the morning. Didn't have them this morning, though.
Well, your eyes are still smiling, so that's good.
Yeah, look, I always try to have a smile on my face.
You have to if you're a Tottenham fan, otherwise you'd cry constantly.
Tiger Cup champions, what's there not to smile about?
Let's see who's in the room. David Harris, woohoo! The Irish Hotspur, woohoo! Making some chips and he'd be round and sweets for afters, Kate. That's from Ellie. Big up, Ellie. Morning to Alan's Mustard Perchy Rage. Yeah, lovely purchase. Sent you all over. Thank you. Big up, Kate and Dave. What a treat for a rainy Thursday. Hi, Rooty. I don't know who this Jim is. He follows me everywhere. Hi, Kate and Dave the Legend and my fellow Spurs lovers. Nana Hotspur, big up Rooty and Jim. Oh no, the boot room is reporting that Ange really likes Dyer and sees him as a leader. So the captain's armband yesterday was significant. Let's not start the show off like that. Big up Kate and Dave, hi Lee. And hello Perchy, thanks for sending everyone over. Well, there's quite a lot to talk about, really, although most of it's doom and gloom. But we'll get the old elephant in the room out the way early on and mention what's going on with Joe Lewis and what your thoughts are on the matter.
Look, I don't think it's a surprise. A lot of people that, have that sort of percentage of money in the world, they've all got it somehow. And all of it hasn't been by, the right way of going about it, I would say. But look, when it comes to Joe Lewis, I'll be honest, I don't think it's going to affect the club at all. I think the club will still look to operate as normal. Look, with Joe Lewis, I think he's looking to fight it anyway. So, I mean, look, this is going to run along for another couple of years. It ain't going to be, just quick fix, especially there's a US election coming up and everything else. So it'll just be put further towards the back burner. And look, I would say people didn't want Paratici involved in this football club because he was bringing it into disrepute. I wonder will the same energy be now shown towards sort of Joe Lewis, because regardless whether Tottenham get dragged into this mess, which I don't think they will, Tottenham's name are always going to be mentioned alongside Joe Lewis as long as this is going on, purely because it's his most famous or, the business that has the most reputation around it. So, Tottenham are always going to be dragged through this mess. But look, when Joe Lewis sees significant control in 2022 when that went through the Customs House, I think that was him already trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
So, putting it out of reach if his finances or his assets were to get frozen over the process. But with him being indicted, that means the investigation and everything else is done. They think they've got more than significant proof. So it's just more or less waiting for it to go to trial.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of people overreacting yesterday saying the NFL are going to drop out and we're going to lose sponsors and Joe Lewis is going to have to sell the club. But I've looked into it. I can't see really now he's covered his tracks that it's going to have any bearing on us whatsoever.
No, I don't think it will. I think, look, the club will look to operate because even if he does go down for it, even if he does sort of, pay the price for it, sorry for swearing. The Lewis family and Daniel Levy will just resume control and keep it going anyway. So I don't think it will affect Tottenham. Now, look, if he gets slapped with a heavy, heavy fine, which there could be potential because a lot of these usually pan out by these people sort of making deals because they have the best listers, best lawyers available, and they usually end up making deals. So if he does sort of get slapped with something heavy, he might have to sell off something to be able to, pay that back. But, people we need to remember this guy's got over 200 businesses. He's involved in biotech, he's involved in agriculture, he's involved in football, he's involved in so many different things, So, look, I don't think it affects Tottenham Hotspur, but it's not good that he's bringing Tottenham through it. And look, maybe there could be rumours to, you got to remember Jam the Jaffe was linked last year. Then you also had QSI linked with maybe putting in some investment. So what could end up happening is maybe that Joe Lewis might, or the Lewis family might sell off some of the shares in order for that investment to come in. Joe Lewis's finances or whatever do get frozen out.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think StreamYard's still not right because the comments taking ages to come up. So if I haven't seen your comment, I'm really sorry. But anyway, I don't want to harp on about Joe Lewis because that was covered by The World and His Wife yesterday on every YouTube channel around. So the match yesterday, the 5-1 win. Who for you was the standout performers? Who you're most impressed with?
Look, Richie got a hat-trick, which was nice to see, you know, that he can finish a football. And he looked alert yesterday. He looked a bit confident, which I like to see. But I'm not getting too far ahead of myself. We're playing against a boat club, you know, Lion City Sailors. So they have to put Lion in there to make themselves sound dangerous. So for me, it's sort of like, you know, with Richie, I'm not getting too carried away. But Lo Celso is one that has really impressed me over his 2 45-minute periods. I think he's been absolutely brilliant in them 2 games. And I'm willing to eat a bit of humble pie on him, although I'm not going to go to the level of still making excuses for how his Tottenham career has panned out today, because I'm of the opinion if someone like Kane and Son and people like that can turn up under any manager, play any system, and still do their thing, there's no reason for other players not to come to this club and show that they can also do the same. So for me, I expect that if that's the standard that Kane and Son are setting, I expect that from every other individual in the squad after them, regardless of the system, whether it suits you or not. If you want to play and you want to be here, you get out there and play. So look, with Lo Celso, again, it's only been 90 minutes, so I'm not getting carried away, but he definitely suits Ange Postecoglou's system, and it does look like that Ange Postecoglou wants to keep him around. So that's a bonus. Who else do I think played well? I think Solomon impressed me when he came on. The fact that he played on the right this time, whereas against West Ham he played on the left. I thought Solomon was absolutely brilliant, and I'm comfortable no matter where he comes on that he can play either role.
I thought Maddison was excellent in the first half. I have to say he seemed to just be everywhere. I was massively disappointed again in Kulusevski. He just doesn't look the same player. I don't know what's going on with him.
Do you know what, Kate? I think, look, I agree with you. You know, that the form hasn't been the best, and it looks like it's just rolling over from last season. But look, with Kulu and Son, because I'd argue Son didn't look the best either, and I get that Son's only coming back from surgery, this, that, and the other. But if you look at the big difference from the first half to the second half, the reason why Richie was able to get a hat-trick is because the amount of balls that came into the box for him to get after. Whereas in the first half, you had 2 wingers that wanted to always invert back inside. And that's why you've seen a lot of our opportunities sort of be in and around the edge of the box, Maddison popping off his shots, etc. Because every time the ball went out to Kane and Son, or Son and Kulu, they slowed it down and kept on coming back inside because they wanted to use their preferred foot. Son on his right foot and Kulu on his left. In the second half, and this is why it's happened in both games, you've got players on the left wing in Perisic, who's left-footed, and you have Mane Solomon on the right wing, who's right-footed. So when the ball went out to them, the ball was being delivered, which meant Richarlison could get on the end of it. If you look what was happening in the first half, anytime it went down to Son or Kulu, they're looking to cut in. And with our striker being told to play on the last shoulder of the defender and get on the end of things in the box, that's what they're there to do. Every time Kulu or Son kept on coming back inside, it meant Kane was offside and having to get back onside to readjust his run. So we weren't creating the chances in that first half. And Kane, Son and Kulu need to work that out. I don't know whether Ange needs to play Kulu on the left now and get them balls being whipped in, and Son on the right and getting them balls whipped in. Are they willing to sort of play that way if needs be, that, you know, Son can't always cut on his right foot, Kulu can't always cut in on his left foot, and that they're out there to sort of get balls in the box, provide chances for Kane, and then number 8's running into the box to help fill spaces. So interesting dynamic there, what Ange Postecoglou's going to do, because it's not working having 2 inverted wingers when his whole system relies on wingers getting the ball in the box for strikers to get on the end of.
What do you think of that comment there? Porro playing above Emerson would provide a much better service down the right.
Look, he very well could. Right footer on the right side, you know, get the ball out of his feet, get it whipped in. Because what we had yesterday is the Lion City Sailors, they just sat everybody behind the ball, especially in the first half. And they were just waiting for us to break them down. But what kept on happening is when the ball went out wide, we kept on coming back into the traffic, into the middle. What we actually needed is to get out wide, get get behind them and get balls in behind that defence. And the first one we done in the first half was 44 minutes when Ben Davies took the responsibility to do it. And then Kulu, he should have scored, but he lost his footing. And I think, that's what you need down the right. So I definitely think, you could try Porro there to do that, because at least you get the ball out and get it whipped in rather than cutting back inside into all the traffic.
Yeah. Going back to who you mentioned, Richarlison, Jim's loved him for years. He's always been a massive fan of Richarlison. And oh, right. Well, I've always been the opposite. I've never rated him. I think he's brilliant for his country, a bit like Harry Maguire. But when it comes to club football, I'm just not convinced. Now, what do you think? Do you think if Kane goes, here's shine? Do you think if Kane stays, here's shine? I mean, are you going to convince me that he's a good player? I'm trying to work out how we paid 60 million for him.
Do you know what? Look, we overpaid. 100% we overpaid. And I think the reason why the club done it is because just in case Kane does leave, they have someone there ready to go. So which means if they do go for someone else in the market, they won't be exploited as bad because they've already got someone in. And look, I've always said, if you want a player and you want to bring him in, doesn't matter the fee, go and get him in. But look, last season we were playing with Richarlison on the left, on the right, and we're looking for him to get involved in the build-up play. And that's not what Richarlison is good at. And it's not where, he got a lot of his goals at everything. Richarlison is good at when you get the ball into the box, letting him go and attack it, let him get on the end of things. That's what Richarlison has always been best at. And when you look at his goals last year against Marseille, both of them came, balls into the box, him getting on the end of them. You look at his goals yesterday, balls in behind, balls into the box, Richarlison getting on the end of them. That's what Richarlison is good at. He is not good at holding up the ball. In fact, he doesn't even have the touch for it. That one, the first touch, is absolutely atrocious. I do not want to see this guy on the wing. He's a striker through the middle where you provide him chances. And Ange Postecoglou's system is going to give him them chances. However, is he going to score enough to replace Kane? No, he's not. What the difference between Kane and Richarlison is, A, Kane's better all round at absolutely everything. But B, it's that composure in the minute, in the moment. You've got so many things to compute, holding off your defender. You've got to try and look where the goalkeeper's coming out, pick your spot, and look down at the ball, execute your finish. There's so many things you need in that split second that you need to compute and you need to execute. Kane does that. Richarlison, for me, sometimes, he can't do it all. He doesn't have the same sort of composure or ability as someone like Harry Kane. So if you let Harry Kane go, you are going to have to bring in another striker here to help pitch in with goals. And hopefully between the two of them, they can make up Kane's goals.
Do you not think if Kane does go and we've got Richie, Solomon, Kulu, Sonny, Maddison, they could potentially replace those missed goals, or would you definitely bring in another striker?
No, I'd definitely bring in another striker. Look, there's a lot made about everyone else is going to pitch in and, they're all going to get these goals. I mean, I don't necessarily buy into that. You look at set pieces, for instance, our corners, free kicks. Last season was our best return ever in the Premier League season. Are you really going to get much more outside of that? No.
Yeah.
You look at the midfielders, Højbjerg, Bentancur, they both had 4 or 5 goals each. Okay, Maddison might get you 5 more, but outside of that, are you going to get much more from a lot of these guys? I'd argue not. Son, he's had 1 golden boot season. The rest of the seasons, he averages around between 13 to 15 goals. Based on history, is he going to get much more outside of that? Well, he's only proven in 1 season that that's the case. Kulu, he needs to get back to where he was in the first season. Is he going to add much more outside of where he was at the first season? I'm not so sure. Solomon might add a few, but I still don't think it's going to be enough, especially with the rate we shipped them at. I mean, we've had the best striker in world football last season, and we were still being outscored. Yeah. So until that centre back sort of position changes, it's not going to change at Tottenham. And if you take Harry Kane's goals out of that team, for me, you're asking for trouble. You take his winners and his equalizers and everything else out last season, it puts you a few points above relegation zone. No, I'm not saying it's going to be that drastic, but you will fall out of the top half of the Premier League table.
Yeah, Jim's saying he's agreeing with everything you say about Richie, because he's been trying to convince me for ages how good he is, but maybe I just need to give him a bit of time. I hope more than anything he proves me wrong and scores like bundles of goals this season, but at the minute, I am not convinced.
Here's what we get, right? Look at the amount of chances we've created over the last few games. Now, yeah, we can put some of the finishing down to preseason, but it just goes to show that all the chances we're creating, this whole thing that everyone's going to chip in, well, they're not taking them at the minute, are they?
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very true. This Kane situation, I know your favourite topic, Mr. Harry Kane. There's lots of reports today that they're going to come in with €100 million bid. Nothing is, they've been around. That report I read about 3 days ago, nothing's happened. Yeah. Do you think this is close to being resolved? Do you think it'd stay? Do you think it'd go? What do you think?
Do you know, if I knew the answer, I'd be down in the bookies, to be honest with you. I'd become a millionaire. Look, Kate, when it comes to the Kane situation, I'm just of the opinion, we're so quick to say sell this guy, and it's not just the same with him. It's been the same with some of our other better players as well. And for me, it comes down to more than just cash. And I get why the conversation crops around, right? He's got 1 year left on his contract. I get it. But we've known we need centre-backs. The club have money. They won't spend it. Do we really want to line their pockets with 100 more million? I don't personally, because I don't trust that they're going to use it, right, to be able to replace this guy adequately, to put a team on the pitch out of that money that can help us push for trophies. I do not trust them to do it. So I don't want to line their pockets with another 100 million, but also B, Kane is worth more to us than just, that 100 million. It's the goals, it's the all-round play, it's the leadership. And for me, there's a lot of unknown variables going into this season. People are already talking about the carry-all. You've got a centre, you've got a defence that's leaking goals. You're losing someone like Højbjerg and stuff, and you've got a new midfield sort of being put together. That's the whole spine of your team. Do you really want to lose a guy like Harry Kane that, if things do go wrong, has the ability single-handedly to drag you out of that mud? I don't. And for me, I just think, why can't we do the right business to persuade Harry Kane this is the right project, put him back where he wants to be, which is where he's always said he wants to be, in a position to win trophies at Tottenham like he was under Pochettino, and let's try and get this guy to stay. We should not be so quick to bow down to some of these clubs and say, yeah, no problem, come in and take our player. The whole idea of putting us into that new stadium was so that we could garner the finances, so that we could, A, give the contracts to these guys so that we can keep them at Tottenham. But B, so we can just say to the buying clubs, look, F off, we don't need to sell them, we're keeping them. So the whole idea of bringing us into this new stadium was to keep our best players. So we didn't have to constantly sell the likes of a Bales and Modric's and etc. and rebuild. So, if we do end up doing that, then what was the point of moving into the new stadium?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I'm so torn as to, if he really wants to, it's so hard because we don't really know what he wants to do we? There's been nothing come out of his camp as such. But part of me thinks, well, I don't want to lose him on a free. But at the same time, it's like you say, when we were in dire straits last season, he was the one who would score the goals that we needed. So it's such a difficult one. It's probably the hardest one to call that I think I've ever known in my time supporting Spurs.
But you know what, Kate? I don't like that Harry Kane seems to be taking all the burden on this. I do not like that. Like, why can't we talk about the club? The club did refuse his move to Man City. They knew they had 2 seasons to get it right, get the right players on the pitch, to convince this guy to sign a new contract. They pissed about. They chopped and changed managing, coaching staff, etc. Some of the signings weren't the most shrewdest. Still refused to sign in a glaringly obvious position that will help this football club. And it's sort of like, why are the club not taking any blame for this whatsoever?
Yeah.
They knew what they had to do back then, that they were in danger of losing this guy, and they still haven't got it done. So, Harry Kane seems to be taking all the blame, and it's sort of like, this guy has always come out and said he wants to try and win trophies at Tottenham. He's always said that's his ambition. That's the same ambition as the fans. So, for me, he shares that same ambition, and now it's up to the board. Go and do that. Show us fans you mean business. Show Kane you mean business. And go and put the right players on the pitch. Because if they let go of Harry Kane without doing the right business to try and persuade this guy, then that just shows me in future they have no plans of going on to do anything great with this football club.
Yeah, I was looking at the odds today. He's now 8-11 to go to Bayern Munich and 15-8 to stay at Spurs. So I just don't. I just don't know where it's going to go. But you're right. I mean, he must be looking around at the transfer business we're doing or have done, and thinking, well, is this it? I'm scoring all these goals, and we've got defenders letting in 63 a season. Do you know what I mean? It's not really encouraging for him, is it?
Well, I mean, if I was Harry Kane right now, right, and I look back at that centre back situation, right, that defensive situation, why would you sign on the dotted line? It's not changed. He's inside the club. He knows how bad that back line affects us. Ange Postecoglou knows. It's not a secret. Everyone in and around the club knows that back line is not fit for purpose. So if you're Harry Kane, yeah, great. You brought in my buddy Madison. Okay, nice. You brought in Solomon. Nice. You've gone for a changing keeper. Great. But the problem is still there. I can score you 24 to 30 goals a season, but we're still going to concede them double at the rate at the back line. So why would I sign on the dotted line right now?
Yeah.
He needs proof that that's going to change. He knows that defense is the difference between putting him in a position to win trophies again or being a mid-table team.
Yeah, I keep seeing this as well. Bayern now offering swap deal Pavard plus cash. I don't know much about him. Do you? Is he decent? Is he?
Yeah, I do like Pavard. I mean, he used to play right back for France, and now he plays like centre back for Bayern Munich. I do like Pavard, actually. I've always been a fan of him for quite some time. But look, a cash deal. It's like Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich pissing me off right now, right? They know the price. They know the price. They know how hard Daniel Levy. Everybody knows how hard Daniel Levy is. Stop with the nonsense.
Yeah.
And go and put the money in. In fact, what they're doing to this football club, Tottenham Hotspur, is disrespectful. People say, "Oh, you can't blame Bayern for that play idiot who turned up with the Kane Bayern Munich jersey." Yes, you can. Bild and Bayern Munich are like that together. Nagelsmann had an affair with the last Bayern Munich journalist from Bild. They're like that together. It's the truth. That was out there. That's the truth.
Wow.
That's why he cost him his job at Bayern Munich, because a lot of the stuff that was happening inside was getting reported to Bild and put out by her. So, that caused a lot of unhappiness in the camp. And that's why at the time I was a bit wary of bringing someone like Nagelsmann in here if that relationship was still going on. And then you look at the pursuit between Bayern and Bild and the stuff being put out by Bild. Kate's over there looking at this, that, and everything else. It's so disrespectful. It's sort of like I've never seen more of a disrespectful pursuit of a world-class player. And if I was Harry Kane, I would want to hold myself to a certain standard. It's like, hang on there a minute.
Yeah.
These guys are lowballing Tottenham. They're pulling all the tricks out of the book to try and get a lower fee. Do they think I'm worth it then? Because if they really thought I was worth it, they'd come in, pay the 100 million to get a seat at the negotiation table and work it out from there and do it in an accordant manner.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're trying all the tricks, all the public stunts, everything else to try and lower the deal to get this guy over the table. And if I'm Harry Kane, I'm like, oh, there in a minute, all this shit you've tried, what's my value? F off, I ain't coming. That's what
A bit like City did with Grealish. They wanted him, they paid the money, got it done straight away. They knew what they wanted and they did it.
Yeah.
So
it's a joke.
Well, if it was your decision now and you could keep Kane, but obviously you run the risk that he might leave in the summer on a free, would you keep him?
I've always said I'd rather Tottenham take the risk. I'd rather us show a bit of balls in this field, in this situation, show a bit of cojones and back themselves that they can get the right work done and get it over the line. Look, Daniel Levy and Kane would have been having talks for a couple of years now over this new contract situation. So the club would know, sort of have an idea or a good feeling where Harry Kane is at. They have to. And for me, they just make the judgment based off that. If they know that this guy, if we do the right business, could sign on the dotted line, go and risk it. What have you got to lose?
Yeah, that's so very true. Yeah, look, Tequila, if you could clone Kane, would you? I think we all would.
Yeah, I would. I'd have him at centre back as well. He does better defending set pieces than half of our job.
That's what I always say. What's he said? For me, there isn't enough hype around Kane leaving for it actually to even be close to be done. Yep. Bayern's reps are meeting with Levy in London tomorrow to negotiate. Yeah, don't the players come back? Is it tomorrow or Saturday? Players.
I'm not. I think it's tomorrow or Saturday. But I mean, who is it? Pletty Twat. He put out that thing saying that there's supposedly a meeting taking place this Friday, and I know with Bayern Munich, I was reading up on something that They've got two guys. They've split up their transfer team. They've got two guys working on the Kyle Walker one, and they left two guys behind in Germany to work on the Harry Kane deal. And they are looking to bring both. So it'll be interesting. But I do know that PSG supposedly hired Pini Sahavi to try and get the Kane deal done over the line. And that guy very, very rarely misses. So interesting times ahead. But for me, Kate, I don't know about you, but coming up so close to a season, surely there has to be a cut-off point by the club to Bayern Munich or even to PSG and say, look, if it ain't in by this Saturday, we're 2 weeks out from the season, we're not selling.
Yeah, I mean, I said it should be by the last day of the tour at the very latest, and now they're coming home. So it's just all dragging on too long. Jim says, Kate and Dave, we need to do everything, whatever it takes to get Kane to sign. If I was Levy, I'd offer him 5% of the club. Kane cannot be replaced. Jim would do anything. I don't know what else he'd do. Mbappe to Spurs, Kane to PSG. Jokes, yeah. Hodgod would. Is it Pavard? Is that how you say it? Pavard.
Yeah, there's probably some posh or right pronunciation. I'm just going to call it as I read it, Pavard.
Would he want to move to Spurs? I think Levy would want to cash so he can put it into Enix's coffin. Yeah, probably. I don't know if he'd want to move to Spurs. I wouldn't want to move to Spurs at the minute. Rooty Tutor said Kane is gone. He left the podium first yesterday. No point trying to keep him against his will. Ange Ball got Celtic 114 goals last season. 11 players scored. We have other players who can score. Yeah.
On that, people don't talk about this enough. He had the best striker in Scotland who bagged him over 30 goals, Borahashi. You know what I mean? People go on like, oh, yeah, everyone's going to pitch in. Great.
Yeah.
He's managing the best team in Scotland, and he's got the best striker in Scotland, Borahashi, who bagged him 30 goals.
Yeah.
And people will not talk or will not highlight that because it doesn't suit their point. To say that Ange Postecoglou does not need a good striker is a fallacy. He bought one. He got rid of Gakamakis at Celtic and brought in Furuhashi to do the job he wanted him to do. So, and this whole team that Kane doesn't want to be here. Where is he selling?
Yeah, I know. That's what I say. I haven't seen signs either. He looked very happy on the tour. I know it's easy to put a smile on your face, but, when he wanted this City move, you could see it in his demeanour and everything. I don't get that feeling. I don't think he'd lose his England captaincy either if he did go. But that's just me. It's the club's fault, not Kane's. We should have built a team around him years ago. Yep. Strasbourg Steve. I'd sell if I was a Spurs fan, but that's just my outside looking in opinion. If Postecoglou has 100 million to find players, that gives him, but would he get the 100 million? That's the trouble. We don't know how much of that he'd get.
But hang on, we know we need centre-backs to be able to drive this club forward.
Yeah.
We were promised 2 last January, and that's the reason why we didn't get any done in January transfer window. So the club should have the money there. They don't need to sell Kane to be able to fund centre-backs or other positions. We're talking about the third highest generating sports club ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. I know. Strasbourg Steve, I like your analysis, Irish Hotspur. You make a decent case and have some good points for Kane State. Well, of course he does. He's Kane's biggest fan. There's no one in the world a bigger fan than Dave.
But you know what, though, Kate? Right? I get it, right? I'm an adorer of Harry Kane, but of course I am. I like great players, right, who chip in every single season. But my opinion just is not. It's not based off my love for Harry Kane. It's based off what I believe is best for Tottenham Hotspur going into the new season. If this conversation was a year down the line, we had a good back line. I had proof that everyone was chipping in with goals all over the pitch. You could say, okay, maybe it is time to move on. But right now, when you're going into a season with so many unvariables and the spine of your team not set, if things go wrong, this is the guy that's going to pull you out of the gutter, and this is the guy that has notoriously done it. People say other players might step up. You might get 1 or 2 that might start piping up. But stepping up on the football pitch, I question it. They haven't done it before.
Yeah. Obviously, the size of our squad at the minute is huge. I think it's about, 37-something players, which is a huge squad because we're not in Europe. Do you actually see anyone going out the door? I mean, do you think the likes of Perisic, Lo Celso that have played in pre-season will be kept? Or do you think you'll try and cash in on some of these names? Because I know a lot of people have been interested in Lo Celso. What do you think?
Well, interestingly enough, there was reports put out in Spain just before kickoff that Ange Postecoglou sort of convinced Lo Celso to stay around. And he asked him about after yesterday's game, and he just said, look, you don't need to go to Spain, mate. Just come to me. I like Lascelles, so he's fitting into the system and that. So it does look like Lascelles is going to be kept around. But, I think this year we bought, 31, 32 players on tour. We bought 28 last season. And I think you register a squad of 25. So, automatically that's 6-7 players that have to go regardless, let alone other players that we know aren't good enough to be here that should be gone as well. So, look, players that I think might be caught, I think you could be looking at Ndombele, right? I know there was a lot made about him going on pre-season, but we haven't seen him. We have not seen him play. Yeah, we talk about him having a knock, but he was in training playing ball since. And I'm not being funny. You could have put him out there against Lion City Sailors. They sat back for 90-odd minutes. So I think he might end up going. I would hope that one of Dyer or Davies or actually two of Dyer, Davies and Sanchez are gone as well. And we bring in centre-backs. Perisic, I believe, has been told, if something comes in to look at it, that he can also go. So, I think there's a few. But for me, I found a lot of this whole exercise pointless anyway. Yes, you've gained the Celso out of it. The rest we knew were going to be in around the first team anyway. So has any of the others actually really stepped up and come into the plans, bar the Celso? No. The whole thing for me has been a pointless exercise.
I think the whole pre-season has been a shambles myself. I mean, really, they've had 90 minutes of football each, and we've gone and travelled all those miles and miles. Where I don't understand why we didn't go over and do what Chelsea and Brighton and that have done, that little Premier League group. At least we're playing against the teams that are at our level and getting their fitness up ready for the Premier League. It's just been an absolute disaster, in my opinion. But anyway, so I've just read someone put in the chat that the Nelson deal's off. I've read today Tapsoba deal's off. I've also heard today VDV is as far away as it was weeks ago. Are we actually going to get any centre backs in? And I'm not including Lenglet in that because we need like two starters, strong centre backs. Oh, is it going to happen?
I'm going to say yes, because surely the club ain't that stupid not to do it, right? But to counter that, I mean, Jose Mourinho asked for defenders. He told them, I need defenders. They brought me and Joe Rodon. Then Conte comes in and says, I need defenders. They bring him in Lenglet on loan. Now Postecoglou is here saying, I need defenders. And they're going to bring in Lenglet on a free. I've been saying it all summer long. This guy will be one of the options and he'll be brought in because it's how Tottenham operate. Now, look, if it was Lenglet plus two others, I'll be okay with it because it means that Dyer, Sanchez and Davies are finito. They're gone. There's no need for them. But it's not going to be. And I'm just getting resigned to the fact that it could be either Adebayo and Lenglet, being brutally honest. And they're setting Ange Postecoglou up for failure going into this new season. I'm absolutely sick to death of this centre-back situation. Me and Jack said a while ago that, they put out a story, Eric Dyer's played through injury last season. Okay, granted. So if you knew he was injured last January transfer window, why didn't you bring in a centre-back?
Yep.
Right, so that makes me not believe that story. Then you see pictures of Dyer coming out, doing the slating, pushing it around. I knew what was coming. I said at the time, this guy, this is what they're doing to soften people up so that this guy will be around next year. Then they bring out the Dyer documentary. Then they keep him away from the first game or the first couple of games. Then they give him the captain's armband. This guy is going to be around here next year. And I don't want anyone to fall into the trap. And it's going to be the same with Davies as well. And I don't want to hear this anymore, this bullshit trap of, well, the manager didn't ask for centre-backs. Well, if the manager picks him, who do you want him to pick?
Yeah.
He doesn't have that option. You know what I mean? He has no option but to pick these guys. So until the club brings centre-backs in, he has to pick them. And I don't want to see any more managers die on the sword of these guys anymore. I'm sick of it. I've had enough of it. People go on like Jose and Conte were mean. Jose gave Dyer the chance. He gave him chances. Dyer let him down. When Jose got sacked, Dyer turns around and goes, well, I don't get all the speak about me at the minute. I think I'm playing well. Okay, you've made a massive cock up against Liverpool and Chelsea and West Ham back to back. You know what I mean? But yeah, you're playing well. And we're constantly playing up to these guys' delusions rather than just going, look, you ain't good enough, mate. You're out the door. But because we put them on such high contracts with such high money, they're not in a rush to move. But other clubs do have the money to spend on them and may be interested. don't have that money to shell out on wages.
Yeah.
So we're screwed. And the club, for me, a lot of it this summer, it's all just to keep Dyer and Davies at this football club and go into another season and give them yet another opportunity, which will be their fifth. How many more do they need to prove they're straight? They ain't good enough. They're not good enough for this level. So if this club actually has ambitions, and if this club really want to sort of change the direction this club is heading in, go and buy centre backs.
Yeah.
I've had enough.
I agree. I'm absolutely at the end of my tether with it all, and I think the majority of the fan base are, apart from a few that have called me negative. I think the majority of people are feeling the same thing. I mean, I was going to ask, do you read into anything in the fact that he put Dyer as captain? Does that say to you that he's going to be playing an important part in Angie's system, or?
Oh, look. As soon as the documentary came out, as soon as the excuses about his performances last season started coming out, I knew this guy would be kept around in some capacity. I just knew it. And it wouldn't surprise me if this guy gets back into the leadership group. Well, him being in the last leadership group or the few before that, how's that worked out? So we're just going to fall into the same trap again. And it's like, everyone, this guy, like I had last season, people going, Dave, get off Dyer's back, he's a leader. What makes this guy a leader? The fact that he can speak, 30 different languages?
And point his arm about.
That makes him a lick ass. What I'll do is, instead of actually improving my performances on the pitch or in training, I'll go and learn different languages, so no matter who's around, I can be buddy-buddy with them and I'll get to stay. A leader on the football pitch is someone that communicates to others, someone that does not make the same mistakes as others, which is very important, by the way, because if I was on the pitch and Dyer started shouting at me, I'd walk over and I'd grab him by the scruff of the neck. I'd be like, and I'd shake him. I'd be like, wake up, dummy. You're the one that's costing this team. You're the one constantly making mistakes. Stop pointing and raving at everybody else and worry about your own game. And shut up, and I'll see you in the dressing room in 45 minutes' time. That's exactly what I'd be saying to that guy, because I've had enough of it. The guy ain't a leader. He makes too many mistakes to be a leader. He can't even put himself in the right position, let alone organize others into the other position. That's what a leader does at the back line. They're vocal, they organize people, and they rarely make mistakes. This guy makes them all the time. He is not a leader, and I'm fed up of it. Someone that knows 5-10 different languages, that does not make them a leader. That just makes them bilingual, which means exactly. Go and get a job as a translator. Well done.
Exactly. I saw what Tequila put, but I don't think Maguire. I think that's going to be a West Ham thing. He's drifted right out now to about 12-1 to come to us. I don't see that happening at all. Oh my God, I dread to think if we brought Maguire and Lenglet in. Can you imagine? I know Anne just said he likes Dyer and he's a leader. I can't. What worries me is that we've got another yes man. Everyone was like, Ange is his own man, and I know he's an employee, but what do you think?
He's got no option but to say it. Who have we brought in for him to go, Tapsoba's a leader, Van der Ven's a leader, this person's a leader? He's looking at the current options he's got right now. And it's the same as every other manager. They have to resort to Dyer because he can speak to them in different languages. That's why. You're not going to give it to Romero, and stuff like that. Let's not fall into this trap. Oh, Postecoglou says it. Who do you want him to call a leader? There ain't anyone out there for him to do it because we haven't bought anybody. So let's not fall into this bullshit again. And if we do, I'm not entertaining that nonsense any longer. Oh, well, Ange said this. He has to. He can't come out and say, well, Dyer's a clown. He's crap, can he? Because reality is, even if he does that and he gets an injury, guess who's next in line to step in? Eric Dyer. Is he going to want to give it his all, knowing that the manager has publicly ridiculed him? No. So let's not fall into this trap. Oh, well, if Ange. Bullshit. We haven't given him an option to choose anybody else. Let's be real about it.
This is I got absolutely slated the other day in the stream for saying pretty much that. And they were all saying, well, everyone says Ange is his own man. He wouldn't say it if he didn't think it. And I said, but he hasn't got a choice. He can't say that he's bad in case he has to resort to playing him. You can't do it. It's not rocket science. But some of the fans... Go on, sorry, Dave.
Quickly on that, Kate, it doesn't matter, if you said the opposite would occur then. They'd say the opposite to you. Where it's like, sorry, go on, sorry. I'm just riled up now.
No, I was going to say, do you know what? I forgot what I was going to say as well. Something about
you were on a stream the other day. And, you were saying more or less what I said there, and that someone was saying to you, well, Ange Postecoglou basically
Yeah.
saying it. You're like, yeah.
It's just, I was going to say, it's not rocket science, but there's so many people that are blind to it and say, no, Ange will turn him around. He deserves another chance under Ange, and Ange won't put up with nonsense. But they can't seem to realise that he's going to, in a few months' time, he's going to be in the same position. His head's going to be on the block when the results are bad. And what's going to happen then? We bring someone else in, and the merry-go-round starts all over again.
Yeah. I'm just fed up of it. It's like, well, I'd love to sit there and hear Ange come out and go tap Soap as a leader, but he can't. He doesn't have it there at his disposal, So let's not fall into this trap. Oh, well, Ange said this. I mean, he has to. It's 5D chess. Let's not play naive to this or stupid to this. Because if Ange came out and ridiculed Dyer, the same people come out and go, well, how do you expect Dyer to play for him when he's ridiculing him?
Yeah. See, Jim, I can't believe Ange says Dyer is a football man. Yeah, but he can't say it. That's the point. He can't say it. What? I don't understand.
I guarantee you, if he had Tapsoba and Van der Ven in, this comment wouldn't come out today.
No, of course it wouldn't. It's so depressing. My gin consumption's gone through the roof. It's a roller coaster ride and it's more downs. Yeah, it certainly is. Dyer, Lingley and Maguire, Kate. No, I'm not having it. Oh, Ben's in the house. Hi, Ben. What was I going to say? Everyone's talking to each other. Dyer can't be a top centre-back because he's shit. Yeah, you can't polish a turd. Yeah, well, they seem to try every year. Yeah. I was reading through the bookies today, and Ange is 4-1 to be sacked by Christmas. What? But what are your thoughts on that? But I mean, what can you say? If he doesn't get what he needs, I can actually see that happening. That's the worst thing.
Look, that's the thing, right? I get wanting to be positive behind Ange, right? And I get it. I'm sick of being angry at this football club. I'm sick of talking about it in a bad light. But unfortunately, that's all they really give me to talk about. But, it's sort of like, I'm not going to sit here and just be oblivious to the problems. And I get I can't do anything about it. But I'm not going to call for a manager's head because I know that the business that hasn't been done, that he needs to be done. And it's sort of like, I've argued this since actually straight after the West Ham game. What changes have we made by the style of football? We haven't. We're still getting caught on the counter. We're still conceding goals. So the only thing that has changed is the style of football and how we approach the game. Actual winning, which is what I care about, has not actually really changed to any sort of degree. So it's sort of like, plus, that centre-back conceded 63 goals under a manager who's well known for having tight defences, who has broke records in leagues for having tight defences. It was the same under Jose Mourinho, one of the best defensive managers ever, who has the tightest defence in the Premier League, La Liga, and the Italian league as well. They're his records as well. And these guys still cannot form that unit. So it's nothing to do with managers. But the reality is, if we go in with that same back line, and you got to remember, right, we came up against West Ham, who sat off us, but still scored 3 out of the 4 chances. Line City Sailors. It's going to be a different story when you're coming up against Man City, Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, teams that are just going to press you when you're on the ball. We ain't going to see the amount of chances that we've created over the last 2 games. We ain't going to even have as much as possession. There are going to be fight back on what we're doing. And there are going to be times where we just can't get out. And that's when you need the back line the most, to keep it steady, keep the clean sheets, not get flustered, so that when you do get out, you can go and try and win that game. The platform for everything is your defense. And it's like anything. If you ain't winning, your head is going to be called for. We can sit here now and say, he plays a good style of football. I'm going to be patient. The reality is, everyone knew under Conte centre-backs is an issue. Since Conte's been sacked, they're all talking about centre-backs. So everyone knows it's an issue. And the reality is, that press ain't giving Postecoglou time the way they gave Jose Mourinho and Conte, because of the reputations they have and what they've done in the game. That press is sitting there waiting to sack Ange Postecoglou. And once the press starts talking, people start listening, and that's where the minds change. I take it back to Jamie Carragher. Jamie Carragher came out and said something when we had Antonio Conte. Everyone came out off the back of it. Carragher's right, blah, 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 sell him. I was like, okay, well, I don't agree with him. So I'm going to look back and see what he said when Conte first joined. Carragher's words were, Conte needs longer than 18 months at Tottenham to sort everything out. But yet then later on down the line, he's calling for his head. And once the media start doing that, people start falling for it and people start spouting the same thing. So the reality is this guy has to come in, hit the ground running, and start winning games. If he doesn't do that, that's where the trouble comes.
And he's on the back foot massively straight away. I mean, a lot of people are saying they can see him walking before the season even starts. I mean, I get this. This is how I feel. We've got to backhand to give Levy the full barrel. But how do you do that? I mean, protests, I respect anyone that protests, but is it going to change? People say don't go to the games, but for everyone that don't go, there'll be 10, 20 other people wanting to go. Merchandise, again, for everyone that don't buy a shirt, there'll be hundreds that will. There's no way to do it. I don't understand the way to do it. He's not going to sell the club. He's not going to leave the club, Levy, and I just am at a loss with what we can do.
Look, Levy was sack Ange Postecoglou. If people are protesting Daniel Levy, look, not everyone, but there would be people that maybe would join in on match days because they're angry, right? They're upset with how Tottenham's going, and if that's happening, that means Ange Postecoglou ain't doing well. Daniel Levy's just going to sack him and bring in the next guy. That's all he's going to do. He sacked Antonio Conte when all the noise was going on about him. He brought in Ange Postecoglou. All the noise quelled down around Tottenham Hotspur in that regard. And that's all he's going to keep doing.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're going to get to a stage where no manager's going to, well, they will because of the money they earn. But there's just no stability in our club. We need some sort of stability. I've really got a positive feeling about Ange. I think he could be fantastic for this club. I think he's the manager we're crying out for. He's eager to make a point and, show he can cut it. But we are preparing him to fail if we do not do something about this defence quickly. So he hasn't even had a chance to look at them, work with them. And it's, 2 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks, whatever it is, till the new season. It's baffling and it's quite worrying. I'm already dreading the season starting.
But you know what, Kate? Even bringing in the centre-back now is too late. Should have been one of the first pieces of business done so we can consolidate that back line, because you keep clean sheets, you're always going to be in a game. And that means then all you need is that one bit of quality to go and be able to nick that game. We don't have that. And that's the biggest thing of it. Look, many people said, attack is the best form of defence. Okay, I'll get it to a certain degree. But I've always argued that defence is going to be even more exposed than what it was under Antonio Conte. And my opinion is they're going to concede more. So until it gets sorted out, this football club ain't going anywhere in any direction. It's that simple. It's going to come back and haunt you. Dyer and Davies ain't going to change. They may put in a few, the first 2-3 months, okay. But the reality is they always revert back to type. Always.
Yep. I mean, everyone's talking about Scott Munn as well. What is he working for us? Has he done anything? I don't ever see anything about him or read anything. He's like I wonder if he's like just a phenomenon. There's no real such person. It's just a name.
I don't know. Last time I read, there was some hold up at Man City or something like that on the City group saying that that's why you haven't started. But again, it's just everything's just having a knock-on effect in the window, which then is going to have a knock-on effect into the season. So, it's just, I just want this football club to do something right. And like you said, there's a lot of positivity around Ange. Everyone's backing Ange. We just need the club to do it now.
I wondered if they bought in Maddison early, Vicario early, got Solomon, and then hoped that would pacify the fans. Whereas I think 90% of fans would have given up 2 out of those 3 to get centre-backs in.
I would.
Yeah,
I would, for sure.
I definitely would. I know we've been crying out for Maddison. I'm over the moon. We've got him. Solomon looks mustard. We needed a new keeper. But the main problem, again, the defence, we say it all the time. It's just completely ignored and neglected season after season. I mean, if Tottenham Hotspur was Levy's child, he'd be done for child abuse because he just neglects it completely. But, I mean, I'm not going to go much longer because Ben's on after me. Are there 2 centre-backs, excluding Lenglet, that are available and you think we could possibly get in?
Look, I said it when I seen the Adarabioyo rumours floating around first. I was like, if Tottenham fail in their pursuit of either Tapsoba or Van de Ven, Adarabioyo will be in. So I think he's going to be one. Lenglet, the reason why it hasn't been done is Barcelona know Tottenham are waiting to sign him. So they're like, well, hang on, you're interested, give us a small fee. Help us out here, we're in financial trouble. Tottenham are sitting there going, hang on here a minute, we know you're going to rip up his contract when the season starts, in order to make clear wages off so that other people can come into this football club. So we're just going to sit there and wait then. And I'm telling you now, it wouldn't surprise me if it's Adebayo and Langley. Look, I like Langley. I don't think he's as bad as many people make him out to be. And I'd argue, in Andrew's system, he definitely has the ability on the ball, to be able to play that way. I get people talk about, does he have the pace with the high line in behind? But the reality is, once that ball goes in behind, you ain't catching that guy running onto it if he's onside. It doesn't matter how much pace you have. I get Kyle Walker does it for times at Man City. But I mean, how many Kyle Walkers are there out there with that sort of speed, that sort of pace? I mean, very little, And if they make that argument about Langley, let's make the same argument about Ben Davies, Dyer, and everything else. It's the same rule applies for them. But the reality is, Langley is just better in the air and better on the ball as well. Adebayo, I actually really like.
Yeah, I do.
Centre back. He comes through the Man City Academy, and one of his biggest strengths is similar to Romero. He likes to get on the ball and put the guys up front in behind. He has that ability, similar to what Toby used to do before Romero came here and started doing it. But he ain't a left-sided centre-back. Can he use his left foot? Is it going to be the same experiment that we had with Tanganga on the left, where he can't use the left boot, so everything has to keep coming back across to Romero, which then makes teams pressing so much more easier. So you put yourself in trouble there again. So, look, for me, just stop the nonsense. Just go and pay for Tapsoba. Just go and put in a bid they can't refuse.
That's exactly right. I mean, they're saying now they've let Diaby go. They don't really want to let him go. Well, like you say, make him an offer they can't refuse. We desperately need him. And there is a price. Everyone's got a price. So why not just do what a big club does and go and get your man?
Yeah, I'm just sick of these protracted negotiations. And the sad thing is now, if we sign a centre-back, I mean, you could give me the best centre-back in the world. It's not going to be excitement. It's just going to be relief.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Just relief. Adrian Schrocker makes a good point. Ibanez is still up from that guy from Roma, the Brazilian kid from Roma. He's still up. I think last time we were actually linked with him, and then there's reports that he was heading to England, sort of try and get a move to the Premier League, but it's all gone quiet since then. Maybe the finances involved, maybe Roma are looking for too much, because I know they have to sell to be able to meet financial fair play. So, I wouldn't write Ibanez off yet either.
I like him. The only thing that worries me, he's a lot like Romero in the fact he's very hot-headed, gets a lot of cards. He's quite rash with his challenges. I'm not sure if we'll ever end up with a full squad on the pitch at the end of a game.
True.
If those two to go together. That's why I was so interested in getting Tapsoba, someone that could calm it down a bit, because he seems very level-headed. But, I mean, it's just small club mentality that... we don't go out and get our number one target. Like you say, this should have been the first bit of business. We could all be sitting here so excited for the new season, and instead everybody's so disheartened and dreading it, because we can all see what's coming. Like you say, they had one chance, the Sailors, and they scored. We can't defend anything. It's just embarrassing. Nielsen, I've heard today that talks are breaking down with that as well. So.
With that guy, though, there was reports out near the end of the season that we already had a deal agreed, this, that, and the other. The name keeps popping up, but we haven't made any movement on it.
No. Well, because they was interested in Sanchez as well, weren't they? And there was talk that they were going to be part of the deal, but it seems to have gone quiet. I just don't understand what's going on. I was looking through Fabrizio Romero and Romano, and everything's like there's people doing this, and then there's nothing about Tottenham anywhere. There's just not a whisper of anything happening. So...
For the whole transfer committee and delegates, they're all out in Asia. So
I know. How has that happened? They must be paid. Surely there must be somebody back who's doing some sort of.
Well, I mean, I'd like to think with all the technology, Kate, emails, Skype, FaceTime, video calls, text messages, phone calls. I'd like to think they can avail of the technology in 2023 to still be able to conduct business, but seems like, there must be no internet service or something like that.
Yeah, they're too busy getting bag sponsorships. I think that's what it is.
Or what was the new one today? The shoe sponsorship, was it?
And they've got a new... they used to have Boss, didn't they, for their suits? They got a new one for that as well. I mean, it's just bloody ridiculous. But anyway... I'm going to wrap up because Ben is starting. I said I'd keep to my hour slot. I haven't gone through every comment, But thank you everyone for joining us. Dave, what an absolute pleasure. I feel so honoured you came onto my show. I was actually a little bit nervous because, you know, because you're an expert and stuff.
Look, I ain't no expert. I've never claimed to be. Do my opinions usually fall on the right side? Look, I'll let people, judge that for themselves. I like to think so. I'm no expert, though. I'm just a Spurs fan who gets the news, makes my own opinion off it, and puts it out there. Look, it's been a pleasure, Kate. You know, we get on the fan shows. We have good chemistry. We have a good laugh and a good conversation. Yeah. Come on, and it's been a pleasure to come over here. And hopefully, you know, everyone can, you've got good support behind you already. Hopefully that continues, and hopefully we see you around here in many years to come.
Yeah, I hope so. When I say an expert, I mean you've been doing it for ages, and you're like a guru. Everyone goes, "Oh, the Irish Hotspur's wicked." Yeah, he's a legend. So yeah, I was a little bit nervous. I felt like I was interviewing a superstar.
Definitely not. I definitely don't look like a superstar anyway, but I'll take it. I'll take it. That's what people want to call me. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, Kate. It's been a good conversation. It's more been, me mounting off. But next time I'll come with questions for you, and we'll have two-way conversation.
That's no problem. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll be back tomorrow at 1. And if you haven't already, go over and subscribe to Dave's channel. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I shall see you soon.
Come on.